Hi, congratulations for making it this far. So, in this discussion, we are going to talk about what exactly you mean by assets and what exactly you mean by liabilities. Very specific to what you read in the book. You might have gone through a couple of case studies. So, this is basically just to give you a walkthrough and understanding about what exactly you mean by those terms called assets, liabilities, uh, income, net worth, and couple of other terms which I want to talk about. So this is something which Robert Kiyosaki talks about in his book very elaborately. So I want to just summarize this. If you can see what is actually written here, right? See, if you really see, this is an example of a balance sheet. So if you take a balance sheet here, you have the income, expense, your assets, liability. So if you really see, I want to introduce four more terms for you to understand this a little better. So if you really understand, the income minus expense is nothing but your cash flow. Your assets minus your liabilities is equal to your net worth. A couple of terms which I want to introduce here. One is education. Second is buying power. You want to understand this with respect to every aspect of finance or money, because the essence of the entire book of what Robert Kiyosaki was talking about, he was talking about primarily how do we build assets in our life. And to just give you a simple definition of what asset is and to explain these terms, if you understand income, any money which comes into your pocket is called an income. Any money which goes out of your pocket is an expense. An asset is something you own, a liability is something you owe. Basically, the income minus your expense is your cash flow. This can be positive or this can be negative. Your assets minus your liability is your net worth. And of course, you know what is education, you know what is buying power. So you want to understand typically by Robert Kiyosaki saying that you trade your time for money. What he was trying to say is the poor people, what they do is they work hard and the income comes here, the money comes here, probably through a job. Mind you, whatever I'm talking about doesn't mean when I say poor is not somebody who's not earning money. You want to understand that very clearly. So I want to make it here and put it very clearly. A poor, if you see the pattern of how money flows for a poor guy, the income comes in here and goes out of his pocket. So this is basically how a poor guy operates. So what I mean by that, let's say he makes a salary of 30,000 and he spends 30,000. So what actually has happened? There has been basically a cash flow which moves out of his pocket every single time. And he doesn't end up building any asset. That is good. If you're a regular guy, most of the people are not this way. The second category, which most of the people Robert Kiyosaki refers to as middle class or what employees or self-employed, what he talks about is people earn money which comes into their income, and from the income they actually assume they are buying an asset. Let's say they buy a house as an example. You will be paying, let's say you buy a 50 lakh rupees house. Let's say you're paying an EMI of 30,000 rupees and net worth of the house is 30 lakhs. So a lot of times when people buy a house, they say it is an asset, but the house is not paid off. So what happens is that money goes out of your pocket every single month, which is the 30,000. This is where the majority of the middle class lie. And this is where they actually have the recurring cash flow. So they are different from these people. They have expenses. But let me give you an example to understand this person. You take an example of somebody who's working in the IT industry, or somebody who's working in the corporate industry, or he's a very senior position. He's working in a very high, very reputed position in a big firm, or he's probably a leading doctor or a lawyer. What he does is he buys a house, or he buys a property, or he buys a land, or let's say he buys some kind of a luxurious car or some commodity. Let's say he buys something, and then every single month he pays interest out of it. So have you seen some people, for example, you go to office, now it's a tax filing season. Most of the people, in order to save, let's say 1 lakh rupees they're earning, and they have it to save around 10,000 rupees. Have you seen these people spend 70,000 rupees? They justify buying a house to save that 10,000 rupees in order to spend 70,000 rupees. So typically, if you really see a middle class mentality, they actually buy a house and they live in the house. So what does it mean? It actually removes money from your pocket. So this is typically how a middle class works. And a rich person, as per what Robert Kiyosaki says, is he first builds the assets, and the assets put money into your pocket. This is how the rich live. And this money goes back into their assets. So what they do, like if you have read the book, he talks about how to reinvest back into your own business. So this is not just into business. If you understand an asset, a true asset is something which will be able to throw cash flow month on month. What do you mean by cash flow? The income minus expense of something should be positive. So if it is negative, let me give you an example. Let's say somebody buys a house and the value of the house is 50 lakhs. So it is an asset for you, 50 lakhs. You're paid off, let's say 20 lakhs. The same house will go here as a liability where 30 lakhs is pending for you. And you're paying an EMI, let's say of 30K every single month. So if you're paying 30K and you're renting out the house for 35,000 rupees, the income minus your expense is positive. So which is the cash flow. So what do you have? You have an asset here. The second aspect is, let's say you leave the house for rent, let's say for 20,000 rupees or 25,000 rupees. Your income minus your expense is negative here. So even though you have an asset, even though you're earning money out of it, even though it's a smaller amount, when the cash flow pattern is negative, you do not see an asset coming into your pocket. An asset is defined as anything which provides a positive cash flow. An asset is not something you own, as per Robert Kiyosaki. You need to understand that very clearly. So when you're running a business or when you're owning something, is that throwing a positive cash flow into your pocket? If it is not, is it possible for me to convert it into a positive cash flow? Let me give you an example. Let's take the example of the same house. Let's say the value of the house is only 25,000. Let's take it as 25,000 rupees. You're earning 1 lakh rupees a month. Now you are investing your money, let's say 50,000 rupees or 70,000 rupees once for furnishing the house, maybe 1 lakh rupees, whatever, one time, whatever money you're saving it, you're putting into the house. Okay, it's a one-time investment. And now you're giving the house as a fully furnished house. So the net worth of the house is now the same. But when you rent it out, the house is going out for 35,000 rupees. So now you have done what it takes to convert a negative cash flow into a positive cash flow by using your buying power. A buying power is not just about buying other properties. It's about seeing something which is a liability. What I mean by liability is anything which sucks money out of your pocket is a liability. We are not even talking about the poor people. I assume since we are in a discussion and you've qualified till here, I believe you have the intelligence to know that you need to build assets. But most of the people, what they talk about building assets is saving money, buying properties, or buying restaurants, whatever it is. But you need to have the education first before you get the buying power. For example, for a layman, it might not be very obvious for him to actually furnish the house and rent it out for 35,000 rupees. Or you can do other things. You can find a way where you can convert the house into a PG, or you can actually find a way where this house can actually have some kind of a tie-up with some kind of a restaurant in your area, where, let's say, you live in that particular house, you will be able to get a certain amount of discount for all the groceries you buy in a particular shop. There are a million ways to do this. The whole idea is you want to understand how to convert anything into an asset versus a liability. So the basic difference, if you really understand, between an entrepreneur and somebody who's a regular guy, in one word, if you really understand, an entrepreneur is someone who is able to convert something of a lower level of productivity to a higher level of productivity. So let's say you're producing X. An entrepreneur is able to see a way where he's able to bring that X into 3X or 4X or 10X. So an entrepreneur in business terms is somebody who's able to build a profitable business. What do I mean by a profitable business? Not with a very high net worth, with a positive cash flow. And if you understand, something is an asset not because of what will happen 10 years from now. A lot of times when people say, like Robert Kiyosaki talks about in his very own book, The Business of the 21st Century, a capital gains asset is something, let's say you buy a house for 20 lakhs and you sell it off for 30 lakhs. 10 lakhs is a capital gains asset. So what happens? Let's say you buy the house for 20 lakhs. In this case, let's say you buy it for 50 lakhs and you sell it for 60 lakhs. You have made 10 lakhs. So is it a cash flow? No, it is neither coming in your income or expense. It goes, money is a form of an asset, even though it's not typically an asset because it depreciates over a period of time. So there are only four kinds of assets. If you really understand here, in whatever I explained here, there are four different kinds of assets which you want to understand typically in a network marketing business or in any scenario. So let me write down the assets which you can. So one is a real estate. This everybody knows. Second is stocks, bar paper assets. The third thing is basically you can actually have intellectual properties or something like gold or things which have value in and of itself. Bitcoin, everything. Fourth thing is probably building a business. You need to understand that these are all the only or probably the main four sources of asset. Everything else, whatever you build, whatever you call as an asset, can fall into an asset or a liability depending on what. We discussed that something which throws money into your pocket is actually an asset. Something which takes money out of your pocket is a liability. So each of these things are wonderful assets. Most of the things which you see on the world, right, is a combination of one of these things. It is either gold or any kind of a physical asset like or a virtual asset or intellectual property, or it can be a stock or it's a business. There are multiple combinations of understanding how the assets work here. See, if you want to understand this on a deeper level, you want to understand this with respect to how this holds good in terms of network marketing. So let me just illustrate this to you. I'm just going to rub off the board here. Yeah. If you understand in a network marketing, you want to do the same thing here. So you want to draw your income, your expense, your assets, and your liabilities. Your cash flow is your income minus expense. Your net worth is your asset minus your liabilities. And you have education, you have buying power. So if you really understand what is the biggest asset of network marketing, if I may challenge you to think, the person who has taken you through the selection process, whoever your coach might be, he would have told you that we are already strongly capitalized. Yes, there is a running cost of any kind of a business you run, there is a running cost involved. But the primary resource which we are employing into our business is what? Money or time? Time. So if you really understand the business from this perspective, let's draw this balance sheet with respect to the time. So what are we trying to do here in terms of running a network marketing business? What are the assets which we are going to build in terms of having a time as an asset or a liability? So if you want to define an asset again clearly, your income minus your expense should be positive. And that is when you have to have the education to have the buying power. So unfortunately, unlike income, the biggest advantage in this universe is income is something which can vary from one individual to another individual. So your income might be very different to your boss's income, which might be very different to somebody who's in the college or who's just about to get a job or somebody who's doing labor work. But you need to understand that that difference which exists between all these people is actually based on your relative position in your life. But the best part about time is everybody has this 24 hours. And fortunately or unfortunately, everybody has the same exact amount of time which they have, which they can actually use it as an asset or a liability. So just like money, you can save time, you can spend time, or you can invest time. But unfortunately, there's nothing called investing time, because once you have spent the time or you have really saved the time, it is time is anyway going to go, because you don't have any control. Just because your watch stops, it doesn't mean you have stopped the time. So we might as well do something productive and understand what we need to do in terms of network marketing. There are two main assets which you need to understand we are going to build in network marketing. So one is the network and customers. So these are the primary assets which we are going to build as a part of network. There are, of course, other assets which I'll be talking about. But the primary assets which we are trying to build in a network marketing business is your network and your customers. And the same thing, what can be an asset can be a liability also, like I told you. The problem is most of us don't understand the difference between this with respect to time. Let's assume. So in a network marketing business, what are we trying to do? We are trying to build a network which will self-sustain, which will throw money into your pocket and also throw time in your pocket. Let's say you're working for 10 hours a day. As an individual, you can produce whatever work you can for the same 10 hours. But if you have 100 people putting in 10 hours, you're getting 100 hours of productivity into your business. This is very clear. So if you want to, let's say, take 100 bricks, you live in the 10th floor and you don't have a lift, unfortunately. And if you have to bring all the 100 bricks from the ground floor to the top, at any point of time, you can bring only 2 bricks. And it takes you 10 minutes to go down and come up total. So if you want to bring all the bricks in 10 minutes, what do? Have a lift, put everything in the lift and bring it. Second thing, you can have enough people who will be able to carry the bricks at one shot, where you don't need to be there. So in fact, you're putting in 0 hours or 0 minutes and you're getting the entire productivity done, your job done, even though you're not putting any time there. So you need to understand how to work a network marketing in terms of setting up a network marketing as an asset which will drive cash flow into your pocket or time coming into your pocket. Most of the biggest challenges people have nowadays is not money. It's mostly about not having time. We have a job, we have a family, we have a kid, and along with that, now you're exploring a network marketing business. So where do we get the time to do that? So if you really see, in order to understand this, you need to understand time in terms of money. Okay, for example, let's say you're getting into stocks. Would you first, let's say you have no idea about a company you're buying, and would you first invest on the stock and then learn about it? Or would you first learn about it and then invest on the stock? I don't know about you. I would definitely learn about the stock and then invest on it, because I don't want to be the learning to be a very, of course, you're going to lose money along the way when you learn and all those things. But I want to first see how I can minimize my loss before I can invest that money, the buying power. So if you understand here with respect to network marketing business, and you put that with respect to time, just like money, time is a resource, because we are trading our time right now to build the network. We are not buying people. And there's no way you can buy people except by paying a salary to them. And even if you pay a salary to them, they can give you that time, but they will not give you the emotion, and they will not give you the dedication. They will not give you the commitment. Because most of these things which we are looking at, which you would have already understood, is one is accountability. Second thing is somebody who's having the common sense. Third thing is somebody who's having a long term mentality in terms of thinking. So you need to understand how to buy these people into your network and how to duplicate this. The biggest knowledge which somebody has to acquire is first learn how to become an asset first for yourself. Because if your thought process is not an asset for you, if your spending habits is not an asset for you, if your daily activities is not an asset for you, if your mental energy is getting drained out on a daily basis, which is not an asset for you, if your emotions are going up, going down, going up, going down, if it is not working for you, if it is working against you, if it is robbing your time, because time is not robbed by money alone, time is robbed typically by emotions, or time is robbed by things which come up, which we'll talk about in a couple of minutes time. So you need to understand how to build your education first. How do we do that? So we need, if you really understand, the business is not difficult. How difficult, I mean, can something as simple as using a different set of products and then building a team who will be able to use a different set of products and service a few customers? How difficult is it going to be? Because people are anyway spending money. People are anyway trying out new stuff. For example, for rest of your life, are you going to say that you're going to buy only one brand of something? You're going to buy only one brand of one mobile phone, when it is not with respect to even a mobile phone, or when it comes to a shirt. Why would people want to not change their buying habits? It's about understanding a few basic things as to what is the benefit of me changing something, and then investing on that. So for example, if you want to invest your time, you need to educate yourself to understand where you need to invest on your time. So in order to build a network, or in order to build your customer base, you need to first understand what it takes. See, for example, most of the time, as I told you, right, let's say you spend most of your energy and most of your time working with the wrong people. Let's say you go and speak to somebody and you bring them into your team. As I told you, in network marketing, network is an asset, customer is an asset, because both of these throw turnover. Why is network an asset? Because the people in your network are going to use your own products. So that goes without saying, if you're in your own business, if you're not using your product, you are yourself a liability for yourself. So the most important component of building a network marketing business or building an asset is, first of all, using your own products, believing in your own products. And network will duplicate it. Your customers are not buying your time, they are buying your products. Correct. So it does make sense to build a set of loyal customer base. So when somebody asks this question, do I have to sell products to my relatives? Do I have to convince somebody to buy the product? Or do I have to go and talk about selling? Or do I have to close products with my relatives? Not remotely. For example, you have somebody who's very overweight and he has all sorts of health problems and he's really looking to lose a lot of weight, and he comes across somebody who's ready to help him and who guarantees the result. Do you really think he will think once or twice to even get into that process of getting the guidance? I don't think so. So he will be actually 100% looking out to get that guidance and making sure that he is actually getting the results what he wants. So what I'm trying to tell you here is, you need to understand that you have to find the need in the market. And once you're able to find a need, you can service them and make them as a good customer. So we have certain processes to understand that. So you need to understand that selling is not about just selling something to somebody and making them buy something. It's about finding somebody who wants a solution for their problem. And how do you solve somebody's problem? You need to ask questions. You need to ask what they are actually facing. You need to get their emotions out. People buy something not because of you selling it. People buy something because they want to solve their own problems. So if you can solve somebody else's problem, they will be a loyal customer to you. And all you need to do is set the accountability for them and making sure and to build the trust, just like how the person who has brought you in this process has built the trust with you in terms of taking you and educating you through the process. Building a trust with your customer, building a rapport with your customer, and helping them and guiding them and giving them certain guidelines. You might not know everything, but definitely you have a lot of sources of information for to gather, which the person who's taught you here will help you to help you to get educated on. See, the entire process is about understanding and educating yourself and increasing your buying power. Because after a point of time, you want to make time for yourself so that you will be able to buy out time. So the biggest advantage in a network marketing business is because you are able to multiply your time. You not being there physically being present. So what we do in building a network, there are a couple of things which are very important. One is you need to find somebody who's accountable, somebody who has a long-term vision. Long-term as in a 2 to 5 year vision. Understand that no business can be built in 2 months or 3 months or 6 months. It takes at least 2 years to understand something and to do anything visible in terms of any kind of a change financially. And typically, you need to work hard for this. I'm sure the person who has told you here would have told you to put in around 15 to 20 hours on a weekly basis. So what is that? So you are actually putting your time here on certain things. So what do you think you need to first put your time? Do you think you need to first build your network and build your customers? Because most of the think people just think that they have to build their assets. Say, for example, if you want to make money through stocks, what is the most important thing? Buy your stocks, invest on stocks, get into the derivatives market, do all these things. But before you indulge there, as we already discussed, it is very important to invest on your education. So there is a saying, the more money or the more money you take out of your wallet in spending on your mind, the mind will give more money back into the wallet. And people spend little or no time in spending that time in putting into their mind. The first important thing you will get to understand in this process is the education part. Education on three things. First is products. Second is people. The third is process. So these are the only three things which you need to understand, because you need to understand how to integrate this. See, the biggest challenge what most of us have is how are we going to manage our time? So we are going to build a network here. We are going to build a customer base here. So that is a goal. In a network marketing business, those are the only two things which we are primarily focusing on in order to set up a network and in order to build a set of loyal customers who want to buy from you. For example, most of us love Apple products. There are some people who really hate, and if you are somebody who hates Apple products, I'm okay with it. But I'm just taking an example. Most of the people love using Apple products because, for example, if you take myself, I have bought the Macintosh way back in 2013, and now it's 2019, and till date I have not had any kind of a problem with my MacBook. And once I had to service that to my adapter. The rest of the times there was no virus issue, there was nothing. But if you typically take a Windows system, all these issues keeps recurring. Yes, am I paying a little more price in terms of buying a Macintosh computer? Yes. But is it worth it? Absolutely. The same thing, what is very important is there are certain things which you need to understand that you need to slow down to speed up, because most of the people don't understand the importance of educating yourself and then getting what is buying power. See, you can actually get the time to actually invest on the right people and coaching them, because that is what I mean by the processes. So if you're going to learn about products, we are going to find the right people. But if you're not training them and educating them on what process you follow in order to run a business, network marketing is all about duplication. It's not about how good you're at selling. It's about how you're able to duplicate yourself. And you don't need to sell anything here, because we have all the marketing and all those things is already outsourced. I'm sure you would have come across your slides. And the biggest advantage in a network marketing business is all you do is you will be building a team, finding some set of loyal customers and servicing them and helping them in their own way. Will be what is the process in terms of products? You will be servicing customers and helping them in order to get better results. They will give you references by themselves. Usually, a satisfied customer is the only person who will be able to give you a reference without you asking. For example, let's say you have helped somebody to solve a knee pain issue or somebody who's had a gastric issue. He will talk about some relative having some problem. Can you help him? You are not asking for references. He's giving you references. Same way in your network, you add value to people's lives. You help them, take them through an education process, help them understand what is business building. And then they will want to take advice from you. They will build a network for you, because the whole idea here is you are investing your life, and you're investing not only your time, you're investing your energy, your thought process, your mind. And you want to invest that time and energy on the best people out there. You don't want to invest that time on somebody who's not worth your time. So 80 to 90% of our time goes in finding the right people and then training them. Don't get me wrong here. You need to understand that there is a tremendous amount of process which is involved here in terms of educating, mentoring people, coaching people. But for somebody to start with in an industry, you don't start with, let's say, if you're learning swimming, you don't jump into 1,000 feet. Correct? You start with something which you will be able to put your legs down, and then you have somebody who will guide you. You go step by step to understand. You start with here, then move to people, then you understand. So these two things is what the person who's brought you till here will guide you on what will be the next steps. So if you understand here, so primarily, let me just rub out the board here. So as you can see here, uh, the biggest challenge most of the people have is, if time is my only asset, so how do I free up my time, or how do I get time to actually build a business? The biggest challenge most of the people think in network marketing is, I don't have the skills, or I don't have the time. Or as you can say, you can build any skill, but what is the most important aspect to build a skill? You need time. And most of the biggest challenges is people don't have the time. If you can see my board here, so I have drawn out 4 quadrants here. If you understand here, so things which are on these quadrants are something which improves your life, and things which are on these quadrants are something which screws up your life. And for example, things which are on the left side feels good now, and things which are on the right side sucks now. Okay, so for example, if you can take things which probably helps you to uh, feel good now but screws up your life. So let me tell you a couple of things. I'm sure you will be able to relate with this. Junk food, party, then what else? You can put everything here, pretty much anything and everything you do, gossip, so on. There are hundreds of things you can fill here. So all these things, actually, if you see on a long-term basis, they help you to feel good now. So when you're gossiping about somebody, or when you're having junk food, or you're going out partying hard every weekend, or you just bunk office and stay lazy, all these things actually make you feel good now. But the problem is, it screws up your life on a long term. So how about this quadrant? So what are things which sucks now, but which screws up life as well? So basically what I'm saying is, it also sucks now, and it screws up your life as well. So which is short term pain as well as long term pain. So can you think of some things? Being in a bad job. So the biggest challenge what I see in this current generation is, people are stuck in a job where it doesn't allow them to do a business. The biggest challenge is not that they really love the job, but they're getting a salary. They want to be there in the job. For example, people are going to office in the morning at 10 o'clock and coming back in the night 11 o'clock. And by the time they reach home, it is almost 12 o'clock, and they work 6 days a week, and they're working in a startup. Obviously, yes, if you really love what you're doing, I don't see a reason why you need to explore a business. But I believe if you are genuine and reached till this point, you're somebody who wants to make a change. A bad job, a bad relationship. So this can be not just your spouse or your parents, or it can be whoever. For example, let's say you talk about something to your colleague or bad company. That will be a better way to put it, instead of bad relationship. You talk to somebody, and every time you talk to them, you feel horrible about yourself. They put you down, or you feel very inferior at the end of the discussion. Or what are the other things which probably would be losing a job, getting into debt, personal issues, like let's say somebody is going through a divorce, or let's say they lost their loved ones in their family. There could be innumerable things which sucks now and which gives you a long term pain as well. So these are all things which we all know, obviously, which takes out energy, but most of the people don't take any kind of action. They are pretty much in a rut in their life. They don't want to understand and move out. So the whole idea is, if you're here, you want to get out of this as quickly as possible, because the most important aspect as an entrepreneur is somebody who is able to get things from a lower level of productivity to a higher level of productivity. The first quality of an asset is somebody who will be able to clear out their time so that they can make the time work for something which they want to do. So if you're somewhere here, you might want to think about how to move out of here as the first thing. Because if you're here and you are really interested in doing something, not network market, anything, and if you can see, you have to first get yourself out of here to actually do something here. So let's talk about things which improves your lives and which sucks now. I'm talking about something which will give you long-term gain, but really sucks now. Correct. One thing is building a business. Why we discussed, I'm sure the person would have taken you through as to what is the difference between building a passive income as an active income, or an asset based income versus a time based income. How about exercising? Let's talk about things which are really, and being fit. This is a big deal. I lost a lot of you here right there. How about eating the right food? So if you really understand, all these things is something which we long for, but these are all things which gives you short term pain, and which really, it doesn't resonate with you. It really sucks when you want to put time, because we are not able to build a business. See how great it would be if we can actually have a business which throws in a cash flow of 1 crore a month, and you're not really doing much. Maybe you're spending 10 hours or 15 hours on a monthly basis in terms of running across and seeing whether things are running great. In fact, Tim Ferriss wrote a very great book called 4 Hour Work Week. And if you average it across 4 weeks, 16 hours a month, you're putting into your entire business. And how great a business would be, which is generating 1 crore. And still you're just putting in 15 to 16 hours a week. Everybody wants that. But the problem is, you need to do something now to actually achieve this. If you want to have a ribbed six pack app, you need to really work out for it, and you need to have a plan for it. And it sucks getting up every day, eating the right food, tracking your calories, eating the right foods. All these things takes effort. And the problem is, it doesn't give you a short term pleasure here. But can you think of things which gives you a short term pleasure as well as a long term pleasure? And if you really understand, when you deeply think about this, what are some things which gives both a short term as well as a long term pleasure? It is nothing but building some sort of habits. Okay. So all these things, in order to actually translate into something for your life. See, if you're somebody who's watching this, you need to understand that since time is a very valuable resource, you need to free out your time which goes into any of these aspects, and give as much amount of time as you need. You need a good job. A good job is something which will give you the money to do whatever is required for it, but you are able to have the flexibility to run a business without worrying too much. You have a typical job. You can be in any shift, 9 to 6 or 12 to 9 or wherever, whatever timings, but you're able to be stress free, and you're able to get the time to build a business. and then let's say you're building a business here. So you're able to then build the habits what is required. So building the habits, the reason why this gives a pleasure is because it has been proved by research that there are certain things which gives you something called as a hormonal rush, and there is a hormone called dopamine. It is known, let's say somebody sets a to-do list. Let's say you wanted to get up and go for a walk for half an hour, and you actually do that. You actually feel good by end of doing it. For example, let's say you lift weights. It might be very hard when you lift weights. Let's say when you have exercised really hard, you will see that it pains you a lot. But after a point of time, once you finish it, it actually makes you feel good. If you know what I'm talking about, it's called eustress. So there are certain things which will help you to build eustress in your life. And you need to understand that as an entrepreneur, you need to learn how to clear up this time. So one thing which is the biggest asset for you is somebody who's a coach or a mentor who will be able to guide you along when you go through this process, because most of the people don't have a coach, they don't have a mentor. A coach is somebody who will help you on the field in terms of running a business. A mentor is somebody who will help you to understand these aspects. Most of the coaches are also good mentors. The person who has brought you here, either himself is a mentor or he will have access to somebody who's a mentor who can really guide you to help you to understand this. But you need to understand how to get time to work for you. And in order to work for you, you need to build habits. The reason why habits are important is because it removes the mental element out of it. It removes the thinking out of it. And if you understand, how do we build this? Because see, most of us, if we already knew this, we would have already implemented it. Most of us don't come from a space where we are actually aware of how to implement this. So I want to talk about how we can actually just give you an introduction about how you can get started there. And I will also tell you what activity which we need to do, which you need to get back to the person who has actually shared you this material and actually tell him that this is what I understood about myself, and actually have a one-on-one discussion about him and understand what he thinks about whatever you told. So let me just have that for you here. So in order to build up anything or to integrate anything, you need to understand how to put things together. For example, if you take a newly born child, it doesn't know how to talk, it doesn't know how to walk, it doesn't know anything. And by the time the same child is 5 years, it pretty much knows everything it knows on earth. Whatever you need to know and more, it knows. And if you really see, all it does is it is a very, very high level of pattern recognition, and there are multiple neurons firing at the same time. And as we grow in our lives, we forget how we put things together. And I want to talk about a few things which you can actually brainstorm. And I would recommend you to do this activity for yourself because it's a very revealing activity. And get back to the person who has shared you this material so that he will be able to guide you along in terms of understanding you a little better and also see where you stand. For example, I'm going to talk about a very interesting way of putting things together, basically, how to create certain things and how to integrate. Let's say you have a job, you have a family, and now let's say you're looking to start a business. How do we integrate all these things as one piece? Because the biggest challenge most of the people have, if they have reached till this point, is they only think about one thing. How do I find the time to run a business? If I find the time, can I really make it a successful venture? And it's not about making it a successful venture, because most of the people don't understand how to integrate it. I'm going to talk about one particular approach, which you might find it very useful, which is basically the Venn diagram. I'm sure you know what a Venn diagram is. I'm going to draw a couple of Venn eggs. If you see here, let me give you an example. So this is an example of a Venn diagram. So for example, this is A, this is B, and there is an intersection here, which is in between A and B. So let's take two elements. For example, let's take maybe food and exercise. Okay. So how do you integrate these two? I'm just giving an example for you to understand how you can do the same thing in terms of your life, what is relevant for you. And I'm just giving an example of a way how you can think for yourself. Because most of the time we don't know how to integrate things, and we lose out on stuff in where we actually don't know how to think for ourselves. Correct. So what I want to do is I want to help you to think this. So if you take an example of food and exercise, so what is the first thing which comes to my mind is, if you want to exercise, what should you eat before you exercise? and what should you eat after your exercise, or vice versa. What should we exercise before eating and should we exercise after eating? What makes sense? You need to ask yourself first. What is it that I need to eat before exercising, if at all? And what is it that I need to eat after exercising? Like, for example, what do you eat before exercising? You have something which will give you energy. For example, you're going to a hard workout in gym. You have some kind of a banana or a fruit or something which will boost your energy so that you can exert yourself and push yourself, maybe a pre-workout which has caffeine, so that you will be able to push yourself harder when you actually go for the workout. The second thing is, what do you eat during exercise? So a lot of people actually drink a lot of things during exercise, which is a little bit out of the context. They have amino acids, a lot of things. But what do you eat after exercise? For example, you've gone for a very heavy gym workout, you've really exercised your muscles really hard, and after the exercise you want to eat food. First of all, you want to make sure that if you're lifted heavy weights, you want to have foods which is good in protein and foods which will give you energy, which is good in carbs. So if you can, let's say you eat banana every time before you go to gym, and let's say after you come back from gym you eat something which will give you energy. So what happens is, every time you eat a banana, your body automatically gets energized and gets ready to do an exercise. You're getting what I'm saying, right? Your body automatically builds the neural network where after a point of time it gets used to becoming very energetic, getting ready to work out when you're used to taking bananas. And it's not during the morning, anytime during the day. Let's say you eat a banana at night 11 o'clock, you will have energy good enough to lift weights in the night, not in the first 2 days but for a period of time. And the most important thing is, you need to build a bridge which will help you to connect these two. And most of the people have not thought about it. And if you really think about this in this particular angle, so if I can tell you the same thing with respect to somebody, a typical guy. So what is the biggest, let's say somebody has a job. Okay. Second thing is, let's say that guy has a family. Already he has to know how to manage a job and a family. Correct. So what has he do? He has to do something with his family before going to a job, because you cannot negotiate with a job. You have to spend time with your family before going to a job. Then you go to the job and then come back and spend the time with your family. And now you have a business element here. This is where most of the people have no idea how to fit this into their life. Somebody who's an entrepreneur finds ways how they can integrate and works the whole thing as habits. Remember, we talked about the diagram, right? Habits actually make you more productive, because the energy dissipation which happens when you build habits is very powerful. For example, if business is a necessity in your life, okay, and you believe that network marketing has what it takes for you to, in the next 2 to 5 years, to build the asset, what would you need to do? Let me tell you. I'm just giving an example. I want you to think. There are certain things which you need to think and come up with your own ideas. I'm just giving you my idea. For example, let's take business and job. What are the things which you need to do? Let's probably, with respect to business, before you go for a job, there are certain activities. And during a job, there are certain things which you can do with respect to business as well. Maybe not family, but with respect to business as well, you can do. Not while working, but let's say you have lunch breaks. There are a lot of things you can do in between your jobs. Correct. How do you integrate a business and a family? You know how to integrate a job and a family. I don't think there is a big problem. But I'm going to talk about something. How do you integrate a business and a family? So let me tell you, if you really see who's my family, I'm a married person, I have a kid. So I involve my wife in terms of whatever I'm doing on a daily basis. So before this, I've seen that most of the people whom I've interacted with, they have a family, let's say a wife who's working and a husband who's working in a different place, typically in different technologies, and they don't really have anything in common to discuss. And the only reason why they are remaining together is because they have the distance. Because if they end up spending 2 months together every single moment, probably they might not be together. And this is very true in this day and generation. So as a part of the business, how can you integrate your family and business? Have some common goals. Can we talk about where we want our family to be, where we need to take our family to be? How can each of us contribute in terms of getting the family there? So with respect to myself and my wife, what I do is I do certain things in terms of business. I take my wife's help, because if somebody wants to reap the rewards in terms of what we do, it is very important that they understand what is the price that we are paying. The first step what somebody could do is, let's say they have a spouse or somebody who doesn't understand in terms of what they're doing. First of all, can they support them in terms of what they're doing? Not physically, but mentally, can they support them and understand that they're running a business? That is the first thing they can do in order to manage a family, because that is one of the very important reasons why it is very important for both the husband and wife to read a book. If you're a bachelor, you don't have this problem. So there is nothing called family. You have a PG, or probably you stay with friends. So you put your friends here. I'm just giving an example here for you to understand how to do this for yourself. So one thing is, you figure out how to integrate job and business. There is something called education, business education. Get back to the person who's invited you to understand this. So how can you integrate uh, job and a family? So you spend time with them, probably you quality time, right? You don't do everything. For example, what I mean by quality time is, if you have only X amount of resources, let's say you have 10 days for you to go to a certain place. Let's say you are in Bangalore and you want to go to Chennai in the next 3 hours. Okay, the only mode of transport which is available for you as of now is an aeroplane. Correct. But if I say you want to go to Chennai, you can decide how you want to go based on the time. And if there is no timeline set, you can even go by walk. I leave that up to you. It's up of your own risk. But ideally, what I mean by quality time is there are certain non-negotiables. See, if you want to go to Chennai, the most important thing is you have to have a vehicle to have that. So you need to have that quality time. For example, you have a kid, you have a wife, you want to make sure that you have undivided attention, where you're not fiddling around with your mobile, you're not texting around with somebody, or you're not checking your office laptop, you're not watching TV, or you're not reading newspaper, you're not seeing updates, or you're not thinking about something else. You want to give that 100% attention to your family. Correct. But that is what I mean by a quality time here. Third thing, how do you integrate business and family? That would be through involvement. Getting them involved in terms of having some common goals, having common friends, having common vision, taking out time to talk about things which you want in your life. In case you have time and money in your control, what would you do? Because most of the people don't take that time out to link this. The biggest challenge for most of the people is integrating these two, business and a family, because they are not able to manage a job and a family. Correct. The reason is because we already discussed there are certain jobs which suck time out of you. And you need to understand that in order to set up a business, you have to find things which don't suck now as well as suck in the future, which will cost you pain in the future. You need to move that to things which cause displeasure now, but give you pleasure in the future. And one of the things would be to get family involved in setting common goals, setting common visions, and building certain habits. And if you really see the cornerstone here, what these things all integrate is in building certain habits on a daily basis. See, if you can do something daily, so I'm not talking about doing something for 5 hours every day. I'm just talking about as simple as doing something for 15 minutes or half an hour, but every day. Somebody who's able to go out for a walk every day for half an hour is way better than somebody who goes for 2 hours of walk once a week, because that guy has the muscle in him. He has the consistency in him in doing something where over a long term period of time it outweighs. So how do you build daily habits? So you want to ask yourself, what are the daily habits you want to build? Because that is what you want to ask your coach or your mentor who's helping you to reach here. What are the daily habits I need to build? And every habit takes at least 30 days for you to build. At least 30 days. It's proved that in 21 days, you can create a brand new habit which can stay with you for the rest of your life. Only thing is, you need to put that effort in the first 30 days. So, am I telling you that the 30 days is going to be a breeze? Absolutely not. It's going to be a lot of effort, a lot of work. And like anything, it would require your conscious mind. And the reason why I was talking about habits is because once you build a habit, it goes into your unconscious mind. So you want to think about two things. I have two things which I want you to do for yourself in terms of your tasks. So the first thing is, what are your challenges you have? So it can be anything. So it can be anything ranging from, I'm not good at talking to people, I'm not good at selling, I'm not comfortable, I don't know anybody, or my job takes up most of my time. My husband is not supporting my business. My husband doesn't like this kind of an idea. I have 3 kids, I have 4 kids, or I have roommates who don't allow me to go out beyond a certain point of time, or I have a deliverable, or I have to go on site. It can be any kind of challenge. First of all, you have to identify the challenges you have. This is A, 1A, and 1B is, draw a Venn diagram as to how you will solve that, and discuss with your coach on this. The reason why you want to be honest about this is because the most important aspect of an entrepreneur in order to build an asset is somebody needs to open up. Because if you really see here, we are building an asset with people. And unlike anything else, people cannot be weighed or measured. I'm not talking about the physical weight, but I'm talking about in terms of understanding the value of somebody. And to me, somebody who's valuable in network marketing is only somebody who is transparent and who is coachable and who has a vision, who's ready to work hard, but at the same time ready to open up himself in terms of every aspect. You might be reluctant to open up, but it takes certain amount of effort. As I told you, 30 days is what it takes to open up to somebody in order to understand what is required for you to change. You may not change today, but it might take probably 60 days or 90 days. But you want to understand what has to be done and open up in terms of sharing what your thoughts are in terms of doing. Because telling somebody that I have a challenge doesn't solve the problem, because the world is not looking for somebody who can give you a problem. The world is always looking for somebody who can give you solutions. An entrepreneur, let me again rephrase it and tell you, is somebody who can take things from a lower level of productivity to a higher level of productivity. So you want to ask yourself, what are your challenges in terms of your current life, which is actually stopping you, or which can potentially stop you in building a business. And you want to draw this Venn diagram and come up with things which you are going to do, come up with action steps. And you might want to discuss about this with your coach and ask him what are the habits which he's going to give you. And second thing is asking about, how do I build these habits? So because it all boils down to this, because once you identify the challenges, you are getting your time cleared out to build this habit. And if you don't understand what are the habits you need to build, it is of no use. It's like you opening up very frankly to a doctor and saying, I am having a tremendous amount of headache, doctor. I have pain here, I have pain there. But after telling everything, a doctor gives you a prescription and you don't eat the medicine. It is absolutely of no use to neither for you nor for the doctor. Yes, of course, the doctor has spent his time, but he knows that he has earned whatever he has earned in that particular thing. But with respect to this, yeah, right, your coach will definitely select somebody else. Let's say you don't open up to him, he will find somebody else in terms of who will be ready to be coached. But the goal is not to find and think of something in that angle. You need to understand and find the thin line of trust, which is the most important thing in terms of building an asset, because you want to build that relationship with your coach and a mentor so that you can actually be that in terms of building your asset here. In a network marketing asset, understand the biggest asset is people, whether it is network or whether it is customers. You want people who will be open. And if a customer is not telling you what his real problem is, he cannot be a long-term customer for you. If somebody in your team is not opening up and telling you what he's going through or what he's thinking, that person cannot be a long-term asset for you. So you need to understand how to build long-term assets. And these are the most important things. And I hope you can do these two things. And I wish you very good luck in the rest of the discussion process, and wish you a good luck in the selection process. Bye-bye.